For centuries upon centuries, video and film alike have become a very important focal lens into the culture in which we live in. Film is not only revolutionary in the field of arts, where still images, such as photography, hold incredible value. Motion picture, upon being introduced, provided more context into what exactly we are looking at throughout history. Film became revolutionary also in the field of politics, history, and economy, and these moments in time in which have to do with these subjects. Films can be used to display very important themes and important cultures across the globe. In particular, in this class, of course, we were looking at films throughout Latin America throughout various decades. According to Latin American Film, the article by Ofterhide, in the late 50s and early 60s, Latin American film burst onto the international scene. Having been influenced by Hollywood but still remaining key into their own cultural components, Latin American film is now used as a key element in understanding Latin cultures and how they differ across Latin America and across the globe. According to Ofterhide, how to make generally popular art, both of the people in a sense of reflecting a society's fundamental conflicts and culture, and for the people in the sense of attracting an audience with the challenge of seeing itself on film, is the key component in what makes Latin American film different from films across the globe. As seen throughout this semester and in many other Latin films that we haven't covered, Latin American film tends to cover a lot of political turmoil in each country, in its respective country, a variety of incredibly important historical moments as well, and also has a keen interest in attitudes on race. So what we can tell from this is that Latin American film tends to focus on certain difficulties in which is presented in each culture across Latin America. Being represented through scripts and acting most of the time, there are other key components that can drive home these themes. Film is special for a number of reasons, not only because it gives more context into a still image, but because of what contributes to making this motion picture look the way that it does. And this is where cinematography comes in. Cinematography is defined as the art of making a motion picture. The creative elements that go into cinematography include, but are not limited to, lighting, sound design, color, camera motion, editing, and more. What sets the mood for a film and also can bring home major themes is heavily rooted in the cinematography artistic elements that are presented by the cinematographer and the editing team post-production. For someone who isn't as invested in film as I, a film major, am, these little details may be overlooked, but they are crucial to creating what we see on the screen and how we feel about what we see on the screen. Small examples can include that dark lighting may invoke a sense of horror, anticipation, dread, sadness, etc. As well as that, the sound design can have a lot to do with the emotions being presented throughout the film. For example, if there is music in a film or not, what that might say, what kind of music might it be? Or perhaps there is symbolism within the film through the sounds of wind or a waterfall. Camera motion can also have a really big impact on how the film is perceived and what they're trying to get across through this film. And one example that I want to talk about is the use of still shots throughout Winyay Pacha. Winyay Pacha is a film about an elderly couple, Wilka and Paxi, and they're living in the Andes Mountains all alone, left to fend for themselves by working through the land and relying on their gods as well. Throughout the film, there is not one single use of camera motion. The film is comprised of a series of long shots and still shots as well. So the camera's propped up for at least 3 minutes usually, just watching whatever the actors are doing. Now, what this might invoke is a sense of loneliness. It can be used to invoke serenity as well. Or it can also create a sense of how vast their environment is in which they're living in. By using still shots, typically, we do not miss a thing in which is happening on screen that we might miss if it was for camera motion. As well as that, throughout the film, typically, there was a use of wide shots as well in these still shots, particularly to invoke a sense of how wide and open the space is in which they're living in.
The next movie I would like to discuss is Una Mujer Fantástica, and I would like to discuss how it relates to dark lighting in cinematography. Una Mujer Fantástica is a movie about a woman whose life was twisted upside down upon the death of her husband and navigating how to deal with that through normal life, through mourning, and how it affects her as she is. The main character of the film is a woman by the name of Marina, and something very important to note about Marina is that she is a transgender woman. This being said, the film not only follows how Marina deals with grief upon losing her husband, but it also deals with transphobic remarks that are made all around her due to the quote-unquote unnatural affairs in which they were having together. Taking all of this into consideration, Una Mujer Fantástica is not going to be your average light rom-com type of movie. Therefore, the cinematography to follow should match the mood of the movie. Throughout the film, there's a very clear use of dark lighting. This can be to symbolize the dark mood that is surrounding grief and mourning her late partner. The death of her partner was very sudden and unexpected, and in many cases throughout the film, she's almost being blamed for the death, which can cause more inner turmoil. This inner turmoil can come out in the form of dark lighting throughout the film. There are many instances where this is used. For example, in the club in which she met him in for the first time and sees his apparition. As well as that, at the end of the film, when she's going into the morgue before he is to get cremated, the dark lighting has surrounded her. There's only the faint red light of a small onset light in the hallway that is illuminating her in this scene. And as well as that, his apparition shows up again. By using dark lighting throughout the film, this further showcases the dark themes in which is being covered by Una Mujer Fantástica, both in her personal life as it relates to being transgender, but also in her personal life as it relates to mourning and the people around her as well. Dark lighting in cinematography typically invokes a sense of dread, or maybe sadness, or maybe the feeling of being lost in the world. All of these could be seen throughout the movie, but the most important is to let the audience know the inner struggle in which Marina is going throughout the film. The last film I would like to discuss is a difficult film when it comes to the themes and topics which is being discussed in a sense. But when you carefully consider the cinematography in which is being used throughout the film, it becomes a little more clear why these confusing scenes are happening. This film is Cocote, and the cinematographic effect that I would like to talk about is the use of sound, specifically in the form of chanting throughout the film. Cocote follows a man named Alberto, who is a gardener who returns home in the Dominican Republic to mourn his father's sudden death. While Alberto is a Christian man, the rest of his family and his neighborhood practices a type of Dominican voodoo instead. With the differences in belief systems already established, it makes it all the more important that their culture is being shown throughout the film. Thus bringing me to these ritual scenes. You see, in Dominican culture, as it's showcased through Cocote, there is a very extensive ritual that goes on for a very extensive period of time when someone in the community passes away. This person being Alberto's father. Alberto has followed Christian beliefs for a bit at this point, and has also moved to the city in order to do his work. So going back home was a bit of an experience for Alberto, as seen throughout the movie, as being drowned out by the chanting of the people he's been brought up with and the people that are now surrounding him yet again has made him feel a bit lost in the crowd. Almost the entire movie can be comprised of ritual scenes. Scenes in which people like his sisters are completely enveloped in the rituals in which are taking place, as well as their belief system. Whereas Alberto, as it pans over, is seen a bit lost, even though this is his culture as well. As is briefly stated in the Latin American Cinema article, Afro-Caribbean culture is very heavily showcased throughout Latin American cinema and is one of the driving factors in which makes it so special and different. Cocote is a prime example, showing this Afro-Caribbean culture in the Dominican Republic specifically through all of these different religious rites and rituals that go on when someone passes away. The main purpose of these ritual scenes, and especially the sound being used throughout the ritual scenes, despite it panning the camera over many times or possibly even showing a whole different scene to begin with, is to make sure that culture is being represented throughout the film. These are Dominican people that are being showcased, and in the Dominican Republic, people take pride in their culture. To wrap up this discussion about cinematography, I want to bring up a few quotes by Johanna Heer in Cinematography, the article. Cinematography, as she puts it, is a fascination with light, a fascination with movement, a fascination with technical equipment, with technology, a fascination with rhythm, a fascination with drama. Cinematography has many different facets in which makes it special. Obviously, of course, speaking in the form of visual appeal, what makes it visually appealing for the audience, but furthermore, how cinematography can tell a story through its visual appeal. As important as the scriptwriters and the actors are in telling a story, cinematography has hidden depths. It has symbolism. It has a way that conveys a story that doesn't require any type of words or acting. It only requires visual elements, such as light, or sound elements, of course, such as background noise or different sound effects or music scores. Latin cinema most of the time tends to tell a very important cultural story depending on the country in which is putting out the particular film. With these stories in mind, cultural moments in mind, historical moments in mind, it is very important to be able to tell the story in a way to an international audience which may not exactly be too familiar. And what better way to do that than by drawing an audience in a way that makes the mise-en-scene not only appealing, but meaningful. Cinematography is an art form for the people. It's an art form for the audience. It's an art form for the world. Thank you.